Hello everyone, welcome to Asura Psych, and today we're going to be continuing the Archetype series, which is when we discuss how certain personality types relate to an archetype that is representative of them in fiction, history, things of that nature. So today we're going to be discussing the ENTP, and the archetype that I associate with the ENTP is the Inventor, and I think that there's a lot of correlations between these two things, the ENTP personality type and the Inventor Archetype, and that's what I want to discuss today. Let's get into it. So let's first talk about what an inventor is before we get into how the ENTP relates to this archetype. So an inventor is somebody who engages in the creative process, usually relating to something in the technical or technological fields. So a great example of an inventor from history would be Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was known for creating many things that were kind of ahead of his time. He had great vision when it came to producing things that he imagined in his mind. For example, the flying machine is often associated with Leonardo da Vinci, and he is associated with other creative projects as well. Leonardo da Vinci is often credited for having ideas that were more than 500 years ahead of their time in terms of actual practical use. So, for example, we have the idea of the parachute. Now, Leonardo da Vinci didn't invent the idea of the parachute, but he prototyped an idea that was actually semi-functional far before people actually needed to use parachutes. He prototyped ideas of tanks that could be operated by men inside of them. He had an idea for a diving suit, which maybe could have even worked. And all of these things share one common concept and idea, and that's that they are far ahead of their actual time in terms of practical use. Inventors are people who want to bring new and exciting things into the world, things that haven't been thought of yet. All of this relates to ENTPs because at their very core, this is what ENTPs tend to like when they are in a healthy state in the world. Now, this isn't going to be every single ENTP. Not every ENTP is going to be someone out there inventing new things, but they generally have a proclivity towards creation and bringing new things into the world, and this has to do with their top two functions, extroverted intuition and introverted thinking. Extroverted intuition is the cognitive function associated with seeking out and exploring all of the potential objective possibilities in the world, which is to say types with high extroverted intuition are interested and excited by new things that could be. They are very much bored by things that are already in the world, routine, things of that nature. They don't want to be stuck in the physical world that already exists. They want to be exploring a world in their mind that exists, something that they can bring out into the world, something that they can change. And this is what really gives the ENTP their uniqueness when it comes to personality, because them, alongside the ENFPs, tend to be some of the most progressive personality types in that they lead with extroverted intuition. They lead with a function that is future-focused. And alongside the introverted intuitives, this tends to lead them to be types who want to engage in things that are new and unseen. So the interesting thing about ENTPs and extroverted intuitive dominants is not only do they see possibilities in the world, not only do they see how things can be built upon and explored in the future, but these ideas, these intuitive thoughts that they have are intrinsically interesting to them. They're going to be things that not only do they see, but they follow with all of their heart. Because extroverted intuitive dominant types are inspired by their vision, they're inspired by their dreams, and that's why many of them go on to lead very artistic and creative lives. Introverted thinking is going to be the function that kind of flavors the extroverted intuition in the ENTP. Introverted thinking is a function that is focused entirely on understanding what is and understanding how things work. This is contrasted to extroverted thinking, which is understanding how things work in a practical sense. Introverted thinking wants to know the very root of how something works and understanding it at that level. So this is going to flavor extroverted intuition. But that being said, introverted thinking is subservient to extroverted thinking, and that the understanding of the world is second to the creative process. And this is what's going to differ the ENTP to the INTP, the scientist, because the INTP is going to be first and foremost interested in understanding the world by exploring new concepts. The ENTP, on the other hand, the inventor, is going to be someone who wants to explore new things within the world and then come to understand them. They want to invent and then understand. To put this in its most simple form, the ENTP is a type that's going to start with their intuition, and they're going to come to understandings about the world by trying to fulfill this intuitive idea that they have, by trying to bring their intuition into reality. So the ENTP might envision something that they want to create or produce in the world, and then through the process of trying to achieve that thing, they're going to come to an understanding of how the world works through introverted thinking, and that's kind of a byproduct of chasing their intuitive dream. All of this is what leads the ENTP to be the perfect candidate to represent the Inventor Archetype, Because as we discussed earlier, the inventor is somebody who wants to bring new things into the world. And the ENTP is often someone who wants to engage in that intuitive process, though it's flavored by their introverted thinking. So they tend to be focused on things that are more so in the technical and technological side of creation, instead of, say, an ENFP who might be on the more artistic side of creation. So ENTPs are really going to be the types of people who are going to be pushing science forward or engaging in new and maybe even sometimes risky ideas. I often think of Elon Musk as an NTP. He might not be an ENTP, he might be an INTP, but he's certainly somebody who has extroverted intuition and introverted thinking, in my opinion, because he's often trying to bring new ideas into the world, these new concepts and new creations that haven't even been remotely thought of or tried, like his underground car system, which is now being built over in California. To me, these are great representations of the inventor archetype, somebody who's trying to bring new things into the world. When it comes to fictional representations of the ENTP and the inventor archetype, I think there's no greater fictional representation than Tony Stark or Iron Man as an ENTP or the inventor archetype. If you look at Tony Stark / Iron Man throughout the Marvel comics and films, his whole thing is having an invention for every situation. He's not going to have one clearly defined thing that he's been working on for so long that's going to change the world in some major way like you might see in an introverted intuitive type. No, Tony Stark has a creation for every possibility. If you are going to try and counter him, he's going to have an idea ready. Or if he doesn't have one ready, he'll have one ready in just a few minutes. Because the creative process in the extroverted intuitive is quick, and they are some of the most quick-minded people in these terms. Now that we've talked about some of the positives of the ENTP and the inventor archetype, let's talk about some of the negatives that are often associated with inventors and the ENTP personality type, and things that they share in common. So more often than not, when you see an inventor-type character in fiction or in history, they tend to be someone who's very socially withdrawn and someone who might even push away others. This is, again, going to be something that you're going to see in both the ENTP and the inventor. Take a look at Tony Stark once again. Tony Stark is somebody who can step on a lot of toes. He doesn't really care if he's a little bit brash, as long as it allows him to bring what he wants into life. Leonardo Da Vinci was not known for being the most social person, and he was often thought to be kind of withdrawn, a recluse, and sometimes even a little bit crazy by other people. And these are often things that you're going to find the ENTP and the inventor archetype are noted for if they're really engaging in their creative process full force. In terms of cognitive functions, this relates to the ENTP because they have tertiary extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling is the cognitive function associated with noticing and valuing the emotions of those around you and those who are important to you. Now, that's going to be extroverted feeling in its most simplest form. But ENTPs, as you can see, aren't going to be the best at this, but they're also not going to be the worst, because unlike the INTP, the ENTP has tertiary extroverted feeling and not repressed extroverted feeling. So it's going to be on the lower half of their cognitive function stack, but something that is not going to be a true problem to them. It's more likely going to be something that they just tend to ignore or not place value in. And this is, again, something that you can see with people like Tony Stark, who aren't aggressively going against the emotions of others in favor of introverted thinking logic, but they're instead just simply ignoring the emotions and values of others in favor of their extroverted intuitive ideas. So let's talk about the greatest weakness of the ENTP and the inventor archetype. And for ENTPs, their greatest weakness is repressed introverted sensing. Introverted sensing is the cognitive function associated with kind of keeping things the way they are and valuing this homeostasis of life. Introverted sensing wants to keep things the way they are because it enjoys the safety and routine of life, and it values things that are already in existence. Now, ENTPs repress this because extroverted intuition and introverted sensing are on an axis. So, ENTPs are going to value the new, but they're going to disvalue the old. And this can cause a lot of troubles in the ENTP's life if they don't learn to place a value or at least acknowledge the value of things that are already in existence. Another problem with repressed introverted sensing and dominant extroverted intuition is sometimes the extroverted intuitive can get bored of their own creation before they even finish it. And this is going to be a major problem for a lot of the extroverted intuitive types in the world. Extroverted intuitive types get excited in the creative process. They get excited by engaging in things that are new. But the problem is if they start to work on something and it's taking too long, it's going to get stale to them very quickly because they don't value the introverted sensing. They don't value the process of bringing things to a conclusion or valuing things that are already in existence. So the extroverted intuitive may very likely start on a project and then a week later abandon it in favor of something else that they've thought of. And this process can begin again and again until the ENTP learns that if they don't bring their ideas to fruition, they're never going to change anything. They're never actually going to bring their intuitive possibilities to the real world if they can't stick with one even though it might get boring after a week, even though it's not something that's going to be interesting always. All right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion on the ENTP personality type and its relationship to the Inventor Archetype. I enjoy doing these archetype videos a lot, and if you're interested in seeing the ones that I've done before this one, I'll include a link to the playlist with my others in the description box below. I would like to say that if you want to support me further on this channel, the absolute best thing you can do is support me on Patreon. YouTube has made some algorithm changes in the past few months that have been hard on creators here on this platform, and income just isn't the same. So if you'd like to support me, even just $1 would help. If 5% of all of my subscriber base supported me for $1 on Patreon, I'd be set to make videos full-time for a long time. So other than that, I'd like to say that I do have personality typing sessions available at my website, asurapsych.com, if you're interested in working with me to find out what your personality type is and what that means for you. Thanks for watching. This has been Asura at Asura Psych. Have a good one.